Kora sat quietly inside the old bus, rocking her baby gently as she fed her the food Silas had given. The little girl nibbled slowly, her eyes fluttering with exhaustion. Kora wiped a tear from her cheek, whispering a prayer of gratitude. She didn't know who that man was, but his kindness had given her and her child one more day of strength. From the shadows, Silas watched in silence. His chest tightened at the sight of them curled up in a corner of the broken bus, wrapped in a thin blanket. He had everything: wealth, power, comfort, but at that moment, nothing felt more important than helping them. He stepped back, careful not to be seen, and walked away with a mind full of thoughts and a heart heavy with purpose. The next morning, Kora woke up to the sound of someone knocking gently on the side of the bus. She held Kyla close, fear rising in her chest. She peeked out and saw the same man from the restaurant standing a few steps away, holding a brown paper bag and a flask. "I brought breakfast," he said softly, not stepping any closer. "Just some food and warm tea for you and the baby. I hope that's okay." Kora hesitated but slowly stepped out. She looked at him with cautious eyes, but there was no threat in his voice or his face, only a quiet sincerity. She took the bag with both hands and whispered, "Thank you again, sir." Silas nodded. "My name is Silas," he said gently. "What's yours?" "Kora," she replied. He gave her a small smile. "Kora, I don't want to offend you or make you uncomfortable, but I would like to help. Only if you allow me. Maybe I could arrange a place for you to stay, something better than this bus." Tears filled Kora's eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. "I don't want pity," she said quietly. "It's not pity," Silas replied. "It's respect. You reminded me of something I lost, and maybe this is my way of honoring them." Kora didn't speak for a while. She looked at her daughter, then back at Silas. The weight of her pride, her struggles, and her hopes all crashed together inside her. Finally, she gave a small nod. Silas didn't say anything more. He only handed her a card and said, "Whenever you're ready." Then he walked away, not waiting for thanks, not expecting anything. But in his heart, he knew he had just taken the first step toward something much bigger than charity. Something that could heal not only Kora and her daughter, but himself too. Silas sat up instantly, the words echoing in his mind. His heart pounded as he reread the message. "Please help us. My child is very sick. We are at St. Thomas General Hospital." Without wasting a second, he grabbed his coat and keys, his movements quick and focused. The rain outside no longer mattered. All that mattered was getting to them in time. At the hospital, Kora sat on the cold bench, soaked and shivering, her arms wrapped tightly around Kyla. The child's body was hot to the touch, her breathing shallow. Kora whispered prayers under her breath, silently begging the heavens not to take her daughter away. Time moved slowly, each minute stretching painfully, hope flickering like a dying flame. Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps broke through the quiet. The hospital doors swung open and Silas rushed in, water dripping from his clothes. He walked straight to the desk, his voice calm but urgent. "There's a woman here," he said. "Her name is Kora. She has a sick baby. Where is she?" The nurse, startled, pointed toward the reception area. Silas turned and spotted her immediately, curled up on the bench, clutching her child, her face pale with worry. He rushed over, kneeling beside her. "Kora," he said softly, "I'm here." She looked up, eyes wide with surprise and relief. She didn't speak. She simply moved aside as Silas gently took the baby into his arms and stood up. Get the doctor, he said firmly. Now. Within minutes, nurses and doctors surrounded them. Kyla was taken into a room, and Kora was left standing in the hallway, drenched and trembling. Silas placed his coat over her shoulders and gently guided her to a chair. She'll be okay, he whispered. She's in safe hands now. Tears streamed down Kora's cheeks, but she nodded. She couldn't find the words, but her eyes said everything. Silas sat beside her, silent, steady. He didn't leave her side, not even for a second. He watched as the doctors moved quickly, treating the fever, giving the baby fluids, monitoring her heartbeat. Hours passed, but Silas didn't move. Kora eventually leaned on his shoulder, exhausted, her fear giving way to trust. Finally, a nurse stepped out and said, "The baby is stable now. We've managed to bring the fever down. She'll be fine." Kora covered her face and wept. Silas let out a long breath. He hadn't realized he was holding. "She's strong," the nurse added gently. "Just like her mother." Kora turned to Silas, her voice barely a whisper. "Why are you doing all this?" He looked into her tired eyes and said, "Because someone should have. Because you and your daughter deserve more than survival. You deserve peace. And maybe I need this too more than I knew." The hospital lights flickered softly as silence settled between them. Not the silence of strangers, but of two lives unexpectedly intertwined by fate, each carrying pain, each quietly beginning to heal. Neither of them knew what the next day would bring, but in that moment, surrounded by the soft beeping of machines and the smell of medicine and rain, one thing was certain: neither of them was alone anymore. Kora turned slowly, confusion written across her face. "Someone's waiting for me?" she asked softly. "Yes, at the front desk," the nurse confirmed with a kind smile. Holding Kyla close to her chest, Kora made her way down the hallway, her steps slow but steady. As she approached the reception, her eyes landed on a familiar figure standing quietly, holding something in his hands. It was Silas. He looked up and gave her a gentle smile. "You're right on time," he said. Kora paused, unsure what he meant. "Sir, I wasn't expecting anyone." "I know," he replied. "But I couldn't let you walk out of here with nowhere to go." She blinked, unsure how to respond. Silas stepped forward and handed her an envelope. Inside were 2 keys and a printed address. "There's a place prepared for you," he said calmly. "A furnished apartment. Safe, warm, and peaceful. Somewhere your daughter can rest, and so can you." Kora stared at the keys in disbelief, then at him. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Emotions swelled in her chest: gratitude, shock, and a fear she might be dreaming. I can't accept this," she whispered. "It's too much." Silas shook his head. "It's not charity. Think of it as a new beginning. For both of you. I'm not doing this for recognition. I'm doing it because it's right." Kora's hands trembled as she looked down at Kyla, who slept peacefully in her arms. The warmth of the blanket, the feel of the keys, the man standing in front of her. Everything felt like a dream she never thought she'd live to see. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely audible. "From the deepest part of my heart. Thank you." Silas nodded gently. "Let me take you there." He led them to his car and opened the door for her. She stepped in carefully, still overwhelmed. The drive was quiet, filled with soft music and the sound of rain gently tapping against the windows. Kora looked out, watching the streets of Lekki pass by, unable to believe how much had changed in just a day. Soon, They arrived in front of a modest but beautiful apartment building. It stood neatly in a quiet street, surrounded by flowering plants and a calm air. Silas stepped out and opened the door for her once more. Kora followed him up a few steps, and he unlocked the door. When she stepped inside, her breath caught in her throat. The apartment was warm and welcoming. A clean bed stood in the center of the room with soft sheets. A baby crib sat in the corner. There was a small kitchen, stocked with groceries. Everything she needed was there, carefully placed, thoughtfully arranged. Kora couldn't hold back her tears. She looked at Silas and then down at Kyla, who was still sleeping, unaware that her life had just changed. "I don't know how to ever repay you," she whispered. "You already have," Silas replied, "by reminding me what it means to care." He placed the file gently on the table. "Take your time to settle in. There's a number in there if you need anything." Then with a soft smile, he turned and left, leaving Kora standing in the middle of her new home, her heart full, her child safe, and her life forever changed. Silas handed her the small gift bag, then looked back at Kora with a gentle expression. "Just a few things for Kyla," he said softly. "I saw a doll at a shop yesterday and thought of her." Kora took the bag carefully and peeked inside. There was a soft pink teddy bear, a tiny knitted sweater, and a bottle of baby lotion. Simple things, yet they carried a weight that touched her heart deeply. She looked up at him, her eyes warm with emotion. "You didn't have to, sir. You've already done more than enough." Silas smiled lightly. "It's not about what I have to do. It's about what I want to do." Seeing her smile like that makes it all worth it. Kora watched as Silas sat down gently beside the couch where Kyla lay. The baby kicked her feet excitedly, cooing as she reached toward the bear. Silas chuckled softly and handed it to her. "There you go, little one." Kyla grabbed it with both hands and brought it close to her chest. Kora stood nearby, her arms folded gently across her stomach, unsure how to express the mixture of gratitude and disbelief she still carried. "Have you eaten this morning?" Silas asked, turning toward her. "Yes, sir. I made porridge," she replied with a soft nod. "There's some left if you'd like to try." Silas shook his head, smiling. "Next time. I just wanted to stop by and see how you two were doing." "We're doing well," she said quietly, sitting across from him. "Kyla is happy. I sleep without fear now." He looked at her and nodded slowly. "That's all I wanted for you." A silence followed, gentle and unforced. The kind that only grows between people who have seen each other at their most vulnerable. Then Silas spoke again, his voice a little lower. "I meant what I said before," he told her. "One day, I'd like to hear your story. I want to know where you came from, what you went through. Not because I'm curious, but because I care." Kora's eyes lowered to the floor. "It's not a pretty story," she said. "It's painful." Silas leaned forward slightly. "Some stories are, but sharing them can help. And you're not alone anymore." She nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. Kyla let out a happy sound and both of them turned to look at her. The baby was now chewing on the bear's ear, completely content. "That sound," Kora whispered. "Her laugh. I used to wonder if I'd ever hear it again." Silas glanced at her with quiet understanding. "Now you will. Every day." He stood up slowly, adjusting his sleeves. "I won't keep you long. I'll be back soon, with more toys maybe." Kora stood as well, following him toward the door. "We'll be here," she said with a soft smile. And next time, I'll have porridge ready. Silas chuckled. Deal. He stepped out into the hallway and turned once more before leaving. Take care, Kora. And give my regards to the princess. She waved gently as he walked away. When the door closed, Kora leaned against it for a moment, her heart full. In a world where she once had nothing, someone had stepped in, not just with money or help, but with kindness and the quiet promise of a better tomorrow. Silas handed her the bag gently. Just a few things for her. Some toys, clothes, and fruit, he said. Thank you, sir, Kora replied softly. They both sat down, the room falling into a peaceful silence for a moment. Then Silas turned to her and asked gently, Kora, if it's okay, may I ask you something? She nodded slowly. How did you end up living in that bus with your baby? Kora looked down at her hands. A quiet pause settled between them. Silas noticed and said reassuringly, You don't have to talk about it if you're not ready. No pressure. Kora quickly shook her head. No, I'm ready. I have nothing to hide. She glanced at Kyla, then back at Silas. It's a long story, she said. I'm here, Silas said softly. Take your time. She took a breath and began. I was in a relationship with someone I met in school. We were together for 4 years. But his mother never liked me. No matter what I did, she didn't want us to be together. Kora paused briefly. 6 months after we graduated, his uncle helped him travel abroad. 2 nights before he left, something happened between us for the first time. And Kyla is the result of that night. Silas leaned in slightly, listening intently. I didn't realize I was pregnant until a month after he left. I tried to contact him. I went to his mother's house hoping she'd help, but she chased me out. She warned me never to come back again. Kora's voice trembled. I didn't have a phone then, so he had no way to reach me. I could have used my mom's phone if I had his number, but I never got it. She took a shaky breath. When my mom found out I was pregnant, it broke her. She had struggled so hard to send me to school. My father left her while she was pregnant with me. She never saw him again, and I've never met him. Kora wiped a tear from her cheek. Seeing me come back home pregnant without a husband, she thought history was repeating itself. She was hurt. She asked me to leave. Silas sat quietly, his eyes never leaving her face. I stayed with a friend for a while. Then I started doing small jobs to survive. But when I was 8 months along, my body gave out. Things got hard for my friend too. She couldn't pay rent anymore, and she left town. That's when I found the abandoned bus. She looked at Kyla's small hand in hers. I was planning to find a job after Kyla turned 1. That was my only hope. Silas leaned back, a softness in his voice. You've been through so much, he said. And yes, you made a mistake. But we all do. Everyone deserves another chance. Kora nodded, eyes shining with emotion. You mentioned school, he added. Does that mean you're a graduate? Yes, Kora replied. I studied business administration. Silas smiled. That's great. When you're ready, you don't have to search for a job. There's a place for you in my company. Kora gasped, covering her mouth. Are you serious, sir? He nodded. Until then, I'll also give you a monthly allowance. You won't struggle again. Tears flowed down her cheeks. Thank you, sir. You've given me something I thought I lost. A reason to keep going. Silas stood and looked out the window. We'll also make arrangements to visit your mother, he added. She's still your mother, and Kyla is her grandchild. I believe she still loves you. She just needs time. I hope so, Kora whispered. We'll also try to find the man, Silas said. He deserves to know he has a child. Kora looked at him with deep emotion. Thank you, Mr. Silas. Truly. I never thought anyone would help me again. He glanced at Kyla. You're not alone anymore. And with that, a new chapter in Kora's life quietly began. One filled with possibility, care, and a fresh start. One peaceful Saturday morning, Kora stood by the apartment window, dressed in a simple but graceful gown. A whole month had passed since she moved in. She was finally ready to go see her mother. At 8 a.m. sharp, Silas arrived and knocked gently on the door. Kora opened it, holding Kyla in her arms. Ready? He asked with a kind smile. Yes, sir. Thank you for this, she said softly. Let's go, Silas said. The car ride took a little over 2 hours. As they neared a quiet village, Kora began to recognize the streets. Her heart pounded. Soon, they entered a familiar compound with a modest painted house. Outside, a woman in her early 60s was sweeping the yard. She looked up, startled, and dropped her broom as the car approached. When the door opened, Kora stepped out with Kyla in her arms. Kora? The woman gasped. Mama, Kora whispered, smiling. The woman ran to her and wrapped her in a tight embrace. My child, she wept. I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I was overwhelmed. Tears rolled freely. I looked for you everywhere, her mother sobbed. Since you left, I haven't had peace. Kora trembled. It's okay, Mama. I understand. You were hurt. I disappointed you. Her mother wiped her face and looked at the baby. Is this my grandchild? Kora nodded. Yes. Her name is Kyla. Tears came again as her mother took Kyla into her arms. She's beautiful. She looks just like you. Then her gaze shifted to the man stepping out of the car. Who is the fine man you came with? She asked with a small smile. Silas approached and greeted her respectfully. Good afternoon, Ma. Good afternoon, my son. God bless you, she replied warmly. Mama, I'll tell you everything later, Kora promised. They all sat outside the house, sharing stories, laughter, and the joy of reunion. Later, Silas took a quiet walk with her mother. Mama, he said kindly, please consider coming to the city. Kora needs you. So does Kyla. You can all be together again in a safer, happier place. Her mother smiled. Thank you, my son. I will. I just need to put some things in order. But I'll come. I've missed my daughter too much. Months passed, and everything changed. The once broken and quiet Kora was now a confident woman. Every morning, she dressed smartly for work, her hair neatly tied, her face full of life. She now worked at Silas's company, a good position, with an official car. Her mother, now calm and content, stayed home to care for Kyla, often humming lullabies on the balcony while feeding the baby. One evening, while cutting tomatoes in the kitchen, Kora's phone buzzed. She wiped her hands and checked it. It was a message from Kyla's father. He now knew the truth. His mother had told him after hearing Kora was back. He accepted the child as his and began sending money each month. It wasn't much, but it mattered. It showed he cared. Kora smiled and put the phone down. She turned and saw her mother playing with Kyla on the floor. Tears welled up, but this time they were tears of peace. "Thank you, God," she whispered, "for giving me a second chance, for bringing Silas into our lives, and for saving my child." This story reminds us that even one small act of kindness can change someone's entire world. Silas didn't just give her food. He gave her hope, a home, and a new life. Kora was lost, but someone cared enough to help her find the way back. If you've learned something from this story, share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget, another touching story is on the way. Please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to watch it. If this story moved you, like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and see you in the next one.